Spinning on a Kogi, getting deep, creating space, missed the shot! Durant gets the rebound!
Luka Dončić used to come with a built-in disclaimer. Imagine him if he was really in shape. Imagine him if he actually tried on defense. As long as that sentence existed, the rest of the league had a safety net. The scariest version of Luka only existed in theory, as a kind of nightmare you could always wake up from by reminding yourself, yeah, but he's not there yet.
Faster than any player that is still active in the NBA.
That safety net is gone. The what-if version of Luka isn't hypothetical anymore. It's the one that shows up every night in a Lakers jersey. The guy who used to dominate while clearly pacing himself is now slimmer, moving better, and playing harder from the opening tip to the final buzzer. The player who once got labeled a defensive target is suddenly active in passing lanes, battling on the glass, and holding his own well enough that you can't just hunt him and expect free points. Right now, there isn't a more terrifying player to game plan for. Luka combines three things almost nobody else has at this level: absurd skill, elite basketball IQ, and finally, real conditioning. The league's worst-case scenario for Luka? That's just his normal now. For years in Dallas, it always felt like Luka was doing everything and somehow it still wasn't enough. Insane numbers, a finals appearance, constant "he needs more help" conversations. And then, out of nowhere, the team that drafted him decided to move on at the peak of his career. When the trade to the Lakers went down, it didn't just shock the league because a top 5 player changed teams. It shocked people because it forced a simple, uncomfortable question. How did it get this far?
At the buzzer! That is Luka magic!
Landing in Los Angeles flipped Luka's entire situation overnight. There's no small market cushion, no quiet rebuilding timeline, no patience for moral victories. Every game is on national TV, every possession gets slowed down and dissected, and every weakness gets talked about for days. That kind of pressure exposes most players. For Luka, it did the opposite. The move stripped away the excuses about the roster around him, the market he was in, or the expectations on the franchise. If he wanted to be seen as the best player in the world, this was the stage. The trade didn't just give him a new jersey, it gave him a clear line in his career. Everything before LA and everything after. For most of his career, Luka was so good that it almost didn't matter he wasn't in ideal shape. He could still pick teams apart with skill and IQ alone, even while reports had his weight creeping well above his listed 230 pounds and into the 250 to 260 range at times. But you could always see the tax it took by the fourth quarter. The slower closeouts, the hands on the knees, the stretches where he drifted to the perimeter and settled instead of attacking. That's the part that quietly changed. At 26, Luka finally treated his body like the one thing that could unlock everything else. Over the course of his last offseason, multiple reports and Luka himself mentioned he dropped around 30 to 31 pounds, transforming the way he moved and looked on the court. He went from being listed at 230 pounds in Dallas to coming into Lakers camp officially at 244, but this time as a leaner, more muscular version of himself after shedding fat and rebuilding with strength and conditioning work. Suddenly, those same step backs and drives looked a little sharper, the recovery after contact a little quicker, and the late game legs a lot more reliable. What really shifted, though, wasn't just the number on the scale. It was the way he talked and played. Less joking about being out of shape, more focus on conditioning and physicality, with Luka saying his whole body looks better and that this summer was a huge step in how seriously he treated his health. This season, Luka is addressing everything and has no room for error if he wants to make another leap in his career and another shot in the NBA Finals. Before this version of Luka ever played a regular season game in Los Angeles, he test drove it on the international stage. At Eurobasket 2025, playing for Slovenia, he didn't just look sharper, he put up one of the most ridiculous scoring runs the tournament has ever seen. Over 7 games, Luka averaged 34.7 points, 8.6 rebounds, and 7.1 assists, leading the entire event in scoring while ranking near the top in almost every major category. He did it against real competition too, dropping over 40 on Italy and nearly 40 on France and Germany in knockout-level environments. Efficiency-wise, it was just as absurd. He shot 45.8% from the field, a blistering 62.1% on two-pointers, and 87.8% from the line on more than 14 attempts per game, which meant he was living at the stripe and punishing defenses for every mistake. By the end of the tournament, he was named to the All-Star 5 again, cementing his status as the engine of Slovenia's entire offense. Eurobasket became the preview trailer. It showed that the lighter, more locked-in Luka wasn't just a summer workout story. It was a fully operational version of him that translated to high-stakes games. While Eurobasket was the warning, the start of Luka's first full season in Los Angeles was proof that this version of him is something different. In his first 5 games as a Laker, he didn't just put up big numbers. He put up numbers nobody in league history had ever touched to open a year. Over that stretch, Luka totaled 200 points, 55 rebounds, 46 assists, 10 steals, and 3 blocks, becoming the first player ever to start a season averaging at least 40 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists across his first 5 games. On a per-game level, that worked out to roughly 40 points, 11 rebounds, and 9.2 assists on efficient shooting, which is the kind of line you usually only see on a video game slider, not in real life. It wasn't just about raw volume either. Early on, his usage rate sat near the top of the league, but he was still scoring with elite efficiency, living in the paint, getting to the line often, and creating a big share of the Lakers' threes with kick-out passes to shooters. Every possession he used turned into either a high-percentage look for himself or a clean shot for a teammate. And those numbers translated directly to wins. Even with injuries around him and a heavy offensive burden, the Lakers opened the season on a tear, posting one of the best records in the West, while Luka led the league in scoring and sat near the top in assists. Possession after possession, the ball found its way into his hands, and instead of the offense slowing down, it hit a new gear. For a franchise that's already seen West, Magic, Kobe, and LeBron, this start still felt different. If you want one game that captures how scary this version of Luka is, you don't have to look any further than the Lakers' 115-107 road win in Denver. In that game, he put up a 38-point triple-double with 13 rebounds and 10 assists on 12 of 21 shooting, 3 of 9 from 3, and 11 of 12 at the free throw line in just 35 minutes. On paper, that's already ridiculous. In context, it's even worse for everyone else. The Lakers were down 14 at halftime and as many as 16 overall, playing at altitude against a Nuggets team that came out on fire from 3. Instead of chasing the game with hero shots, Luka slowly took control of the tempo. He scored 16 quick points early, kept attacking the rim, lived at the line, and picked Denver apart with pocket passes and kickouts whenever they sent extra help. By the time the fourth quarter hit, the Lakers were playing at his speed, not Denver's. What makes this game such a perfect snapshot is how normal it felt. A 38-point triple-double in a comeback road win used to be a career night. For this version of Luka, it's starting to feel like the baseline. The scariest thing about Luka right now is that there's no obvious way to guard him. Take away one part of his game, and he just leans harder on another. Teams load up on his step-back threes, so he lives in the paint. They pack the lane, he turns the game into a passing clinic. They switch everything, he calmly hunts the weakest defender over and over until something breaks. As a scorer, he can hurt you from every level. The step-back three is still the signature, that slow, almost lazy setup into a sudden sidestep that creates just enough space. But what really breaks defenses is how often he gets 2 feet in the paint. He uses his strength and footwork to bump guards off their spots, seals smaller players in the post, and forces bigs to either foul or give up floaters and layups. When you look at his shot profile, it's a constant mix of efficient paint touches, free throws, and threes he's comfortable with, The exact combination every analytics department is begging their star to reach. Then you add the playmaking on top. Luka isn't just seeing the first read, he's already on the second and third. The weak side corner, the cutter sneaking behind the help, the roller slipping out a beat early, he finds all of it. That's why his assist numbers stay high even when he's scoring 35 or 40. He's not a scorer who passes as a last resort. He's a creator who can score like a pure gunner whenever he wants. Most stars force you to pick between shutting down their scoring or their playmaking. With Luka, there is no clean choice. Whatever coverage you pick, he's already figured out the answer. What makes Luka even harder to deal with is that the Lakers roster is built almost perfectly around his strengths. He's playing with bigs who set real screens, dive hard to the rim, and force the defense to collapse. That turns a simple high pick and roll into a nightmare. Stay home on the roller, and Luka walks into floaters. Help one step too far, and it's a lob or a layup. Around that, you've got shooters spotting up in the corners and on the wings. Every drive becomes a choice. Load up on Luka and give up clean threes, or stay home and let him go to work one-on-one in space. The scheme isn't complicated. It's built on spacing, screening, and letting him read the floor. But that's exactly why it's so hard to stop. Luka turns simple actions into unsolvable problems for the opposing team. The big question with Luka was never about talent. Everyone knew he had that from day one. The real question was simpler and way more important. Could he ever become the kind of player you trust to anchor a championship on both ends of the floor every night for an entire season and playoff run? For years, the answer hovered somewhere between maybe and not yet. The doubts were always the same: conditioning, defense, and how much his style could scale deep into May and June. Could he stay locked in physically? Could he avoid being hunted on defense? Could an offense built so heavily around one guy hold up under playoff scouting? This season is the first time those questions are starting to flip. Instead of asking, can you win with Luka at the center of everything, it's becoming, how do you beat a team when he is? He's in shape, he's playing with defensive effort, and he's controlling games without burning out. That's what makes him so scary right now. The conversation is no longer about what he might become one day. It's about whether anyone in the league, even at their best, can match the version of Luka Dončić we're already watching. If you enjoyed that video, let us know what you think of this version of Luka down in the comments below. For more content like this, make sure you're subscribed and check out our other videos.